Good morning, Year 6, and a happy Thursday to you all. It is Thursday the 14th of January, and today in our maths lesson we are going to be converting fractions to decimals. So yesterday we looked at converting decimals to fractions, so today we're going to do the opposite. Okay then, so to warm our brains up, we have got a couple of questions here. So number 1, what number is represented in the place value chart? Write it in words and numerals. So very similar to our warm-up question from yesterday. So I would like you to pause the video here now and have a go at question 1 for me, and then you can come back and see whether you've got the correct answer. Okay then, so you should have had a go at question number 1, and you should have got 0.2 tenths, 4 hundredths and 3 thousandths. So today we have got a thousandths column on, which is absolutely no problem at all. And to write that in numerals, it would be 0.243. There we go. So you literally write it as you would say it. Okay. Now here we've got write each decimal as a fraction. So 0.7, 0.42, 0.73 and 0.88. So you should remember that if there is only one place after the decimal point, then the denominator is 10, and if there are 2 places after the decimal point, then the denominator is 100. So we should have 7 tenths for the first one. Going down here, we should have 42 hundredths. And this one we should have 73 hundredths. And the last one we should have 88 hundredths. Hope those ones were okay for you. And then lastly, we have got what is the value of the digit 6, 41.986. So if we put that in our place value chart, we would have 1, so 41, put our decimal point in, 0.98 and 6. So we're looking at this 6 here, and that is in our thousandths column. So the value is 6 thousandths. Okay, remembering that you've got that THS at the end to make it thousandths, not thousands. Okay then, so let's move on to today's lesson. So very similar words from the last few weeks and yesterday as well. Okay, so remembering that 1 over 100 is the same as 100th, 1 out of 100, 0.01, and there you got it in words, 0.01. So here we've got Mr. Turtle, and he says 13/50ths. Is this 0.13 as a decimal? So let's work it out. Now 0.13 would be 13 over 100. Okay, remember, because it's if it's in 2 places after the decimal point, the denominator is 100. So then let's work out what this would be as a decimal point. So if we converted that, if we made this denominator to 100, whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So to get from 50 to 100, we multiply by 2. So we now need to do 13 multiplied by 2, which is 26. So just put my line there, and then 26. So 26 out of 100, that would equal 0.26 as a decimal, not 0.13. Okay, because 0.13 as a decimal is 13 hundredths, just like we worked out here. Okay, so remember, if your denominator is not 100, you need to make it 100 so you can work out the decimal point. Okay, 2 numbers after the decimal point is going to be out of 100. Okay, so let's move on. Here we've got 4 fractions. Now this fraction here, a half, you should know these, a half and a quarter, you should just know their decimal point equivalents. It's just something that you've just got to learn, okay? So a half is 0.5, okay? That is the decimal equivalent. Now, how I remember that is 5. I know that 5 is half of 10, okay? And that's how I remember it myself. All right, so we know that half is the same as 0.5. Now, here we've got 9/20ths. Now, we haven't got our denominator of either 10 or 100 or 1,000, so we can't convert it into a decimal point just yet. We need to convert it to a fraction with 100 over as the denominator. Now, I'm choosing 100, not 10, because it's easier to go from 20 to 100 instead of going from 20 to 10. Okay, so we multiply 20 by 5 to get to 100. So again, whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 9 times 5, and that is 45. So the fraction is 45 out of 100. So what would that be as a decimal? We should all know that that is going to be 0.45. Okay. So if you wanted to use the place value grid as well up here, that's absolutely not a problem. So you've got 0 in your ones column, your decimal point. If I can just move it up. There we go. You have got 4/10 and you have got 5/100. 0.45 is the same as 9/20. Okay, let's have a look at this one here then. So here we have got 250. Now, if you know your 25 times table, which is really easy, we just go 25, 50, 75, 100. So if we make 250 up to 1,000, okay, so we are multiplying 250, we would go 250, 275, 300, okay? So we are going to multiply 250 by 4. So 250 times it by 4. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So it would be 53 times 4. Now, if you want to use short multiplication here, you can. That's not a problem. So 53 times it by 4. Put our times symbol in so we know what we're doing. And our equal lines. And also I'm going to just put my line on for my fraction as well. There we go. So 4 times 3 is 12. Carry my 1. And put my 2 in the ones column. 5 times 4 is 20. Add the 1 is 21. Oops, not 31. 21. There we go. So 53 times 4 is 212. And that would be 212 over 1,000. So 212 thousandths. So that would equal 0.212. Now we've got 3 decimal places after the decimal point here, because that's the number that we have. And also remember, 1,000 has 3 zeros. Okay then, so next one. Now we've got 2,000 here, but I can't really go any higher. So I'm going to do some dividing this time, and I'm going to divide 2,000 by 2, and that will give me 1,000. So I'm going to have my denominator as 1,000, and I have divided by 2 to get that. So I now need to do my numerator, and I need to do 118 divided by 2. So we need to half 118. Now I know that half of 100 is 50 and half of 18 is 9. So it will be 59. Now, this is where it can get a little bit tricky if you don't have three numbers as your numerator. So 0 point. Now we know that we need to have three numbers, and our 9 needs to go in our thousandths column. So I need to put a placeholder in before I finish off with my 500ths and 9 thousandths. Okay, so that would be the equivalent decimal point to 118 over 2000. Okay, I hope that was all okay for you and not too tricky, not too confusing. I've left this chart here for you. I will also put it on the website if you want to use it. Sometimes it might be just better just to write it out if you can, but it will be there just in case. Okay, so your work today is converting fractions to decimals. A very similar layout to yesterday's work, okay? And you've got a couple of reasoning questions already before you do move on to your reasoning and problem solving. Okay, so you can pause this video here and you can complete that work. And when you come back, we will do problem solving and reasoning. So I hope that you have all managed to get on with your maths work okay. And now we're going to do problem solving and reasoning, all about converting fractions to decimals. So Steph and Ben are comparing fractions. Steph says, I think that 0.35 is greater. Ben says, I think that 2/5 is greater. Who is correct? And we've got to explain how you know. So I'm going to convert this decimal, into a fraction. So I've got 0.35. So I can see that there are 2 places after the decimal point. So my denominator needs to be 100. I'm going to put my line in for my fraction, and I've already got given my numerator, which is 35. So that is the equivalent fraction for that decimal. Now Ben hasn't got a fraction that ends with 10 or 100 or 1,000. So I'm going to convert 2/5 into a fraction as 10 as the denominator. Now, what do we do to 5 to get to 10? You should know that that is, you multiply it by 2. So whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. So that is going to be my numerator. Now, I've got 10, but I need to get to 100 so I can convert what it will be. Now, I know that from 10 to 100, we multiply by 10. So 4 multiplied by 10 is 40. Now I have got 2 fractions that I can compare. I've got 35 hundredths or I have got 40 hundredths. So which is greater? Which numerator is the greatest? 40 hundredths is the greatest. So Ben is correct because 2/5 equals 40 hundredths and 0.35 equals 35 hundredths, and which shows that 40 is greater than 35. Okay, and just a little explanation just to explain your working out there. Okay then, so you will be answering some questions like that today. Next question then, convert the fractions into decimals and write them in ascending order. So that means going from smallest to largest. So let's have a look here. We have got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So our denominator is 20 and our numerator is going to be 10 because just half of them have been shaded in. Now, to get from 20 to 100, we multiply by 5. So whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 10 multiplied by 5 is 50. Oops. 50. So 50 out of 100 as a decimal is going to be 0.5. Now I've said just 0.5 because if you can remember from yesterday, if you have a numerator and a denominator with a 0 on the end, you can cancel out each other's denominator. No, each other's 0, sorry. So it would be 5/10, which is the same as 0.5, which is also the same as a half if we remember back to our maths lesson earlier on. Okay, so we've got 0.5 as our first fraction. Sorry, decimal. 3/5 then. So I'm going to convert 3/5 into tenths. So I multiply 5 by 2 to get 10. So I now need to multiply 3 by 2, and that will be 6. I know that 6/10 as a decimal is 0.6. 4/10, nice and easy. We don't need to do any converting fractions wise. We know that that is 0.4 as a decimal. And then here we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 4/5. So to convert 4/5 into tenths, I multiply 5 by 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 4 times 2 is 8. I know now that 8/10 is 0.8. So I now need to convert the fractions into decimals and write them in ascending order. So starting from the smallest, we have 0.4, then we have 0.5, then 0.6, and then our biggest decimal is 0.8. Lots of working out there, but not too difficult maths to complete. Some nice and easy multiplications to do there, just to make sure our denominators are either 100 or a 10. Okay, so your problem solving and reasoning work, converting fractions to decimals. Bronze, questions 1, 2 and 3. Silver, questions 4, 5 and 6. And gold and platinum, questions 7, 8 and 9. Remember, for the problem solving and reasoning questions, you only need to do 3 questions, please. Okay, have a super day, Year 6. And remember to send in your work to your class teacher via Class Dojo portfolio, please. That would be super. Speak to you all soon. Bye.